About the 10th Makkah. Okay, that question I think we could answer. What about the other 9? How can be the 9 which could impact on what we think their role is, what they're meant to accomplish, and the like. So let me start with 2 other questions about the Makkot. Some of you may be familiar with them, some of you may not be familiar with them. Okay, as you go through the Makkot, I don't know if you noticed, sometimes it explicitly says God differentiated between the Jewish people and Mitzrayim, but it doesn't start out by doing that. I don't know which is the first Makkah it does that for.
Orayta.
Okay, very good. Okay, so for Dam, Tzfardeya, and Kinim, it does not say, God differentiate, give me 1 second, between Am Yisrael and the Egyptians. As you get to the 4th Makkah, as you get to Oreb, let's just read the Psukim. So you get to the 4th Makkah, you have, here it is, Vefleiti bayomu in Eretz Goshen, Asher Am Yom Eloleha, Levilti Hayochem Orov. I will make sure that Eretz Goshen is different and there won't be. Well, this obviously raises the question, how come the first time the Psukim explicitly say the Makkah happened to the Egyptians and not to the Jews is the 4th Makkah? Shalom.
I remember as a little kid this picture of by Dam where the Jews had water to drink,
yes,
and the Egyptians did not. And the Egyptians had to pay the
correct.
Jews, and even there's this one picture that my Mora showed me of the Jew and the Mitzri with the same cup trying to drink together, and like 2 straws,
okay,
and like the Mitzri would end up with blood, and I mean I'm sure that's medrash, but
yes,
like
it is in Midrash. I need to start out with your Mora, but it may not be correct. Okay, well, that's what we're trying to figure out. For whatever reason, the Chumash first explicitly talks about differentiation in the 4th Makkah. And the 5th Makkah does it as well. Okay, we go to the 5th Makkah. Right after Rov we have, let's find it. With Dever, Hifla Hashem ben Miknei Yisrael ben Miknei Mitzrayim. V'lo yamut b'chol b'nei Yisrael davar. So it says, no, only the cattle of the Egyptians are being affected, not the cattle of the Jews. So again, still just heightens the question. Makkah 1, 2, 3, we're not told that. Makkah 4 and 5, we are told that. Okay? All right. One other question. There's also a discrepancy regarding when there's a warning. For some of the Makkot, God says, go tell Paro there's going to be a Makkah. For some, it just seems to be, let's just start the Makkah. We don't have to hear about it. And I know the pattern is actually a very clear pattern. Very good, very good. The Makkah 1 and 2 have a warning, 3 does not. 4 and 5 have a warning, 6 does not. 7, 8 have a warning, and 9 does not. So that also raises the question, like, why is there this kind of pattern about the warnings? If you think about it for a second, it might show you actually that something we do in the Seder maybe is not an arbitrary mnemonic device that's trying to say something. Like, what do we have in the Seder, of course? Rabbi Yehuda, Hayanotein Behem, Simanim, right? Titzach, Adash. So I guess as a kid, I thought that was just like a convenient memory device, like Sokatoa. Right? So we'll remember the Mako, right? Okay. That's what you did in high school, Sokatoa? Okay. What? Titzach, Adash, Bacham. But maybe he's really trying to say there's some thematic linkage here. Right, the first 3 are one thing, the second 3 are another thing. So maybe fitting with that would be this kind of mathematical pattern. Every set of 3, 2 get a warning, and 1 does not. So let's start with those 2 questions, and we'll see how it touches on how we think about the Makkah. Sure.
I mean, I don't know if it says this, but I think there's like a very clear thematic distinction between where the Makkot happened. Like one was on the ground, one was like in the sky, and like
yeah. So Shalom's right. There are other reasons to think besides the warning issue. Other reasons to make this thematic division. That Rabbi Yehuda is not only making a memory device, but really saying the first 2 Makkot are one thing, and the second one's a separate unit, and the third is a third unit. Okay? Yeah, lady.
Saying, in addition to where Hashem explicitly says, I'm going to divide, it also by Makkah Choshech explicitly says they had light, and then obviously by Makkah Bechorot.
Correct.
It divides there as well.
Correct. Okay, so let's start with these 2 questions. So there's a way to kind of neutralize them, and the way to say no, they have tremendous significance. Let's start with the Rashbam, second source. Okay, so Rashbam says, you're curious, why is the first time the Torah tells me there's going to be a distinction in Makkah 4? Reflekti b'yamu, lefi sha'chayot ra'ot, kalim heim lolechet, b'chol ha'maltiot k'shemaka mishulachat, hutzrach lomar lashon havdalah v'hafrasha yoter mishar Makkot. According to Rashbam, what's going on here? What's happening in the 4th Makkah? Eric?
Basically, if you have wild beasts running around, like they're not going to differentiate between Jews and non-Jews.
Excellent.
It's really bad for Jews.
Excellent. And what's kalim heim lolechet also? What would that mean? Kalim heim lolechet?
They walk easily.
Yeah, what's the way of saying? They're migrant, they get around. Right, what does Rashbam want to claim? What's he assuming, by the way? That all the Makkot were only affecting the Egyptians, but there was no need to point out that Dam or Kinim was only for the Egyptians. The point he claims they don't migrate. they don't move with the same kind of ease of movement. But animals would naturally get around. So this is the first time the Torah feels a need to say God differentiated between them. Now that's clear the Rashbam is assuming all the 10 Makot obviously only affected the Egyptians. But there was a need to talk about differentiation only when we got to Makkah number 4. No.
How does that work with Friday?
Okay, he'd have to assume, it's true, you're right. You'd have to assume that somehow the animals of a robe are more light on their feet than frogs. Again, I'm not an expert on animal movements. Maybe it's a doable argument. I'm not sure. Right, you'd have to work that out.
Yeah, so it's the same problem with Keening. The device travel very easily, just with, things like that. Just
okay, it's a reasonable question. He would have to work out some arguments here. Okay, now to show you something, the opposite is kind of, first time I saw this, I was amazed. Look at Ibn Ezra. Okay, Shalom, you'll be okay if Ibn Ezra disagrees with your Mora from
okay.
Texas?
I'll be okay.
Okay, not Texas, from Marlboro, New Jersey. You'll be okay? Okay, so we got here with Ibn Ezra. V'yachbu rabim omrim, many people say, ki hamayim hayu biyad ha-mitzri adomim kedam, v'nit lamnu biyad Yisrael. Here it is, your Mora's position. What do many people say, says Ibn Ezra? If the Egyptian held the cup, it was blood. He handed it to a Jew, all of a sudden, nit labnu, literally it became white. What would it mean in context? It became water? Okay, here we go. The Imkei is an interesting critique of these kind of midrashim. Lama lo nichtav od zeh b'Torah. What's Bali Midrash? Well, that's a pretty great miracle. Why? Why the Torah tells us? These midrashim, if they're not in the psukim, we don't have to assume that that's what happened. Lefi date, you guys ready for radical theory? Ki makan hadam v'atzvaydim v'akinim haita kolelet hamitzriyim v'ayivrim. Pretty remarkable. What does the guys want to claim?
The Jews drink.
Actually, it did affect both Jew and Egyptian, right? Everybody's water was blood. Everybody had frogs in their ovens. Everybody had lice that was bothering them. What's that as our argument? I think that's why the Torah does not say that God differentiated. What he says here, Ki achar hakatuv nirdof. What does it mean by that phrase? Achar hakatuv nirdof. We're going to, as it were, we're going to run after the words, and that's what the words say. Okay, now how does he deal with this? But why should? That's just a question of how you read the psukim. Why should it be that way? Look what he says now. Eila hashalosh ma'at heziku. That's interesting. Does he doesn't argue? The first three.
These pain.
It's a little bit of pain. Like I think frogs is the easiest winner. It's obviously a real irritation to have frogs jumping up all in your living room. But arguably, there's no lasting damage, right? And get back to the opening question. It's not life-threatening to have a lot of frogs around. Right? It doesn't. It's not. We're not even destroying like later Makot destroy crops. We're not even destroying crops or livestock at this point. So the Ibn Ezra argues dam, tzvardei, and kinem are, for lack of a better term, these minor irritants. And minor irritants, at that point, we didn't need to differentiate between the Egyptians and the Jews. But it also might be interesting, according to Ibn Ezra, that maybe the Makot are kind of building to crescendo. Like you start with like a minor punishment, you get more serious. Obviously, Makot B'chol is the most serious. Maybe as we're seeing how the Egyptians will react, you start with a light thing. So that's what you argue. Okay, so here we have a very interesting debate. According to Rashbam, all the Makot are for the Egyptians, not the Jews. There was only a reason why the Torah points out Makot 4. According to Ibn Ezra, all the Makot are for everybody. The first three Makot are for everybody, and he ties them to being Ma'ad Hezek. Okay, Avery.
So in verse 21, it says that that even though it doesn't give the specific warning, it doesn't.
Which paragraph?
In Parag Zayin.
Okay.
It's for blood. It says that Lo yochlu Mitzrayim lishtot mayim min hayor. It says that Egypt couldn't drink.
Okay, very good. Except for one thing. First of all, it also says at the end of that pasuk, "Vayihadam
throughout the land."
B'chol Eretz Mitzrayim. I will also say everyone's argue against Ibn Ezra. Interesting argument. But could you say Lo yochlu Mitzrayim? Actually, Mitzrayim here means the land of Egypt and
not the people.
The Egyptians, right? Mitzrayim is not the same as Mitzrayim. Lo yochlu Mitzrayim. The land of Egypt was not capable of drinking water because it had turned into blood.
But, I mean, so...
Just give me Amy, it's very sharp. You're doing this to make one point.
Yeah.
Even the Rashbam who's on your side felt the need to explain why the Torah first is explicit about it in the fourth Makkah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong,
Definitely.
you're wrong, but even you felt like, well, why is it so explicit about it against the Makkah 4 and not so clear about it? But maybe the Rashbam would agree. They say, no, if you read between the lines carefully, you'd see that really that was hinted at. No, you're right. Maybe that's a source. You want to go with Rashbam over Ibn Ezra, maybe that would be a source. Okay, Sean, what are you going to say?
I was going to say that, I don't know, to me, Dam is potentially life-threatening if you can't drink water.
Except for one thing. So
You know?
Shalom's right, except for, let me ask you a question, guys.
It depends how long you're going without
Okay.
water.
But that's actually interesting. Two other things. Okay, guys, I'm teaching Mako now, Lindenbaum, and I feel like I understand what I understood them before. So a couple of things have emerged. One is, most of the Mako, we're not told the duration of the Maka. Actually, Dam is we are told. You know what it says?
7 days.
Very good. Dam says it lasted a week. So it is pretty serious in terms of that, except for one thing they'll show. Right? Which is as follows. If they really didn't have access to water for a week, arguably,
Well
they
done.
all would have died.
Well,
So I think, what does it say that they did? Yeah, sorry, Jeff.
But they would have died for the Jews.
Ah, well, that go back, assuming that
There's a difference.
the Jews had water. Right? But doesn't it say that they dug?
they dug new wells.
It says they dug?
Dug.
So I think, where is it? Let's see, Perak Zion, where's the pasuk?
Chaf
Because you see it, it's Zion Chaf
Yeah.
But yeah, Ruach Kol Mitzrayim Shvori Yarmayim Nishtot. There it is, it's actually pretty explicit, right? What do you guys think? Look at pasuk Chaf Dalet, Perak Zion pasuk Dalet. Vayachbru Kol Mitzrayim Shvori Yarmayim Nishtot, Ki lo yachlu shtom me'ayar. But it doesn't say they dug and weren't successful. It sounds like they dug and were able to access. Right? Does it sound right? No, it makes sense. How does Khartoumim repeat the trick? There's also a question some of the question asked. Right, if all their water was blood, there's been no water for the Khartoumim to have done the trick on, right? So it sounds like it was difficult to access water, but impossible. Like if you went down to the Nile, all your water was blood. But if you dug a little bit, you could access a water source. So I think Ibn Ezra can have a good argument here. It was really irritating. You had to dig every time you wanted water. But again, it wasn't necessarily life-threatening at that point. Yeah.
Because it wasn't like Dam only really, I thought it was only really affecting the Nile because that's the Egyptians saw the Nile as a god and that was showing like our
Okay, so I think you're right, Daniel, that it's not an accident the Nile's picked for the first. To make one other point also, here the symbolism was pretty obvious if you think about it. What would be the symbolism of the Nile turning to blood? Why is that like a midah connected midah, as it were? Right, they're putting the Jewish boys, babies in the Nile, right? That's pretty clear. But, so you're right, I think the Nile is a classic symbol. However, where's that pasuk? It sounds like it's a little broader, right?
Yeah, Yitzhak.
Oh yeah, there it is. Right, Kach matchonetecha al meimei Mitzrayim al naroteim al yoreim al mehem al kol mikvei mehem yudam. So it's actually, the lady's right, Daniel, it's actually pretty explicit that I think you're caught up with something true, that the Nile is a classic symbol for the Makkah. At the same time, it actually is a broader Makkah. Okay, what's that end? Somebody else want to say something? Okay, we're good? Okay, so that's the debate. You ready?
I think it's really cool. There's a division in this one by Moshe versus Aaron. Moshe is just the Nile, and Aaron hits all the waters. So Moshe seems to be about like sort of negating the divinity of the Nile, or whatever, and Aaron seems to be doing something more on all of Egypt in general.
Okay. The Moshe Aaron's question is also a good question. I'll leave that aside. Okay, so we got issue one. This issue of the differentiation between Jews and Egyptians. Let's go on to issue number two. What about the Hatra'ah? Okay, so let's see the next Rashba, third source. ויום השם משה בפרעה, שני פעמים משה מתריע את פרעה בשני מכות, ובשלישי לא מתריע, וכן בכל הסדר, בכל שלוש מכות, אין מתריע. בדם מצרי התרע, בקינן לא התרע, ברוב ודבר התרע, בשכין לא התרע, בבר התרע, בכל שלוש התרע. Exactly, you said, Nadi. According to Rashba, what's going on here, we have a simple pattern. Okay, you get two warnings, by the time you haven't listened, the third time you don't have to get a warning, and there's three groups of three. Okay, let's go to the Ramban. The Ramban sees something different in the warnings. This is going to be amazing. Okay, Avalo hitrabo. כי אין הקדוש ברוך הוא מטרה בפרעה, רק במכות אשר בין מיתן לאדם. We have a different clue. What the Ramban would argue? Right? If it's going to be life-threatening, then you deserve a warning. Like that's when Hashem tells me, I'm going to take human life, they have to get a warning before it. So it's almost thinking parallel to like halacha with hatra'ah. But if it's just going to be a minor irritation, you don't have to give happen. That's fascinating though, because what's the Ramban assuming? Let's play it out for a second. He has to assume that a rove and dever are life-threatening. Actually, what's going to be the let's plug it in, guys. What's going to be the toughest marker for him? Well, let's think about it. Dam and Tzfardeh are going to have to be life-threatening. Right. Tzfardeh is going to be a tough sell, right?
Yeah.
Right. Kinim is going to be not, and that's okay. Orov and Dev will be life-threatening, and Shkin, right?
Yeah.
Shkin will not be. Then Barad and Arba will be life-threatening, and actually Choshech will not be. Now I realize many of you may have went to elementary school that during Choshech a lot of Jews died.
Yeah.
But we all know that it doesn't say it explicitly in Psukim, we're okay with that? It did not say explicitly anybody died in Choshech. So you could make a case that Choshech was extremely difficult, but not necessarily like that. All it says is that the Egyptians didn't get up, right? It says, Shloshet Yamim, lo ra'u something, lo ra'u ish, it says, ish etachiv, lo kamu ish tachav, Shloshet Yamim. Okay, so I think the most difficult might be Tzfardeh for the Ramban. You have to claim that Tzfardeh was actually life-threatening. Yeah, Mark?
Does that mean they didn't eat it all?
They didn't drink it.
Except for one thing about that, guys. Okay, again, I feel badly when I don't need to like always fight with elementary school teachers. They did a wonderful job, so don't take this the wrong way. But if you look at Rashbam and Ibn Ezra there, Lam Kamu Ish Tachtav, he says it doesn't mean they didn't get up. It says they didn't leave their homes. Right, that's what he means. And at that point, like, okay, it's like a blackout. What happens if you have a blackout? So it doesn't mean like you sit in your chair for 3 days. You probably don't go out that much. Right, there's no lighting outside. Right, so I think at that point, Mark, it's pretty easy to argue that Choshech was not necessarily death to any humanity. Right? It just means that they didn't have any light and they didn't leave their homes for 3 days. Okay?
But where it might be more life-threatening in terms of Tzfardea is in the warning. It says there will be in the ovens and the like kneading bowls and stuff. So it'll be interfering with their food as well.
Okay, good. So it's interesting. Look what his proof though. Look what he says. Now there's 2 prakim in Tehillim that talk about the Mako. Look at this parak. V'ktib b'tzfardim, u'tzfardea, God sent tzfardea, but tashchitem. What's the claim? That's a harsh verb. What's the hashchit something? Destroy. Shurom is lamita, o lashvata. Now he doesn't explain exactly how the frogs were deadly. Maybe he goes legs approach. He says, but I have a proof not from Shemot, I have a proof from Tehillim. When Tehillim is repeating about the Mako, the verb for tzfardea is the tashchitem. Okay, we're good so far, guys? Okay, now we're going to tell you a pshat in tzfardea. It's going to knock your socks off. Let's go back to tzfardea. I think tzfardea can really be deathly or not. So what about, maybe the verb might be telling. What verb is used for the tzfardea? What did tzfardea do there? So this is in Perek Zayin, Pasuk, let's find it. Pasuk Chav Zayin. What does God say he's going to do? Perek Zayin, Pasuk Chav Zayin. Im ha'enet l'shalech, hini anochi, nogef et kol gvucha. Tzfardea, what now? Nogef makes us think of the word magifa. So maybe, what resonance with the word nogef? Is nogef a word that should make us think of death or not? Right? That might prove who's right here about tzfardea. Okay, so let's go to Rashi. What does Rashi about nogef? Nogef et kol gvucha, maka. V'chein kol lashon magifa, eino lashon mita. So actually, paradoxically, I don't know if magifa might have made extinct death. Rashi says actually, that verb should not make extinct death. Now what do you think this proof, guys? This guy, I always say, it's good to know Tanakh. If you know Tanakh, you can bring proofs for your theories. If you know Tanakh, it's much harder to bring proofs. But luckily, if you don't know Tanakh, you just whip out the concordance and you're okay also. So let's search for this verb. Is this verb a death verb or not? Look what he says. V'chein v'nagfu hishahara. I'm curious if you guys think there's a proof or not. Eino lashon mita. Does anyone get the reference? V'nagfu ishahara. Who's ishahara? What does it mean to be behirayon?
Very good.
Very good. So what's the case there, remember? 2 men are fighting. One of them hits a pregnant woman. As a result, she
Miscarriage.
loses the fetus. Right, but what do they have to do? What's the punishment?
Is to pay for the fetus.
Payment, right? Don't forget, because even though it's an important point, I know it's not my topic at all, but it's good to realize the Jewish approach to abortion is not exactly the same as the Catholic Church, because we do think it's problematic. It is asur, but we don't treat it as murder. Right? When you murder a fetus, it's not a death penalty crime. But that's why there might be certain heterim. Right? That's why you can kill the fetus to save the mother. Right? Because we don't view it as exactly parallel to murder. Because that's a whole separate question. But what is how's Rashi using it though? What's he claiming over there? V'nagfu hishahara. What does that prove?
She doesn't die.
She doesn't die. So there no gave her. She's fine. She lost the baby. So that shows Rashi wants to claim. That shows that no gave does not mean mita. Because if you want to defend the other position, what would you say?
Well, the baby
The
died.
baby dies. Maybe use that verb because there is death. It's true. Nagfu hishahara, but maybe that verb is chosen because there is death lurking there. Okay, so let's go to the Barbanel. This is going to amaze you guys. Amazing Barbanel. Here we go. Amnon. Ma hema habale chaim shekara kutub b'kan tzfardim. What animal is it? I know we're all surprised because for all our lives we were told tzfardei is frog, and that's the modern word for frog. Tell me what the Barbanel think. How do you know that? How do you know that tzfardei is a frog? Right? Klala mefarshim amru shem hadagim aktanim hatzoakim tamid ba'agamim. What do all the commentaries say? Those small fish that crowd in the swamps, which is a way of saying frogs. Okay. Rabbi Chananel, you guys ready? Anyone read this before? Anyone ever hear there's an alternative to what's right? Wait, no, how do you guys know this? Amazing. Where do you know this from? Okay, knowledgeable group here.
Elementary school teacher.
That's it, wow. Okay, some elementary schools, they do all the midrashim, some they do the wacky Barbanels. Amazing. Okay, Rabbi Chananel Piresh, Shem HaBalei Chaim HaGdolim Shebenilos. Who are they? The large creatures of the Nile. Hanekwim B'Lashon Harav. Al Timsach, which apparently even today is how to say, Mark has your Arabic. Okay, how to say crocodile in French?
I don't know.
You didn't get to that yet?
Animal are tough.
Okay, so apparently that's a crocodile. Umefarshe HaTorah lo hudulo. But the other Mefarshem, Tonight, but before we get to who's right, obviously that have huge implications. If it's difficult for us to imagine that Friday is being life-threatening, it is less difficult to envision the crocodiles being life-threatening. And arguably, it could have what Daniel said before, we're talking about like attacking Egyptian symbols, right? So a crocodile would be a symbol of the Nile in a much more profound way than frog. So it's a big advantage to our Nile, right? We're going through various Egyptian symbols, maybe even Egyptian divinities. Oh, I'll tell you a good story, guys. We can get education from all kinds of places. Okay, there's a kind of, you probably know this, you look in America. Okay, there's a cartoon called Asterix and Obelix. You guys know those cartoons? Like these European cartoons? Unfortunately, the way life goes, they're much more clever than American cartoons. Anyone ever read them? No? Maybe the only one who knows them? I think it's either Belgian or French. So these two Gaulish warriors that go to various countries, and there are a lot of wordplays and jokes. Like the Roman legions, all their names end with us, but it's always like some funny name. Like the Roman legionary's name might be something like Christmas bonus. Okay, but guys, go look at it. They're much more clever than Archie comics. Okay, so I was discussing this idea with my kids at the table, and I said that the crocodile might have been a symbol of divinity in Egypt, so it works out well. So they said, of course we know that. So how do you know that? Apparently, there's one Asterix and Obelix where they visit Egypt, and they keep talking about this sacred crocodile throughout the cartoon. So guys, read Asterix and Obelix, you get a whole education there. Okay, so let's see how it plays out. The Yeshem Yakatu al Zerayot Mehem. Amru hinei anochi nogef et kol chabetz radim. V'lo yomar lashon negifa b'makot sheyesh b'mita. So I think it's fascinating. The Bible is exactly the opposite, Rashi. If you hear the word nogef, you should hear magefah in the background. Magefah should make you think that there is death. Right? So no, it can't be frogs. It's got to be crocodiles, and that's the word nigaf. What about Rashi's proof? V'lo tzadku divrei Rashi. Shekatav she'enu lashon mita. Rashi's wrong. V'ha'edim sheni. What does it mean by that phrase? V'ha'edim sheni. Well, the witnesses, but what would it be in context? Very good, very good. Often when a Rishon says your aid, it means your proof, right? What's your witness? It's your proof after all. Hey, dim shevi, alav lo yaspiku, kinev v'nakfu yishira, exactly what you guys said. Negifat hara mita yota hara imita yiladeha. Very good. The Rav Blau said that's a lousy proof. The reason why the term uses the verb nigaf there is because there is a death, not the death of the woman, but the death